When I first married David, I knew stepping into the role of stepmother wasn't going to be an easy journey. His son, Ethan, was 16 at the time, quiet and withdrawn, carrying the kind of heaviness that only a teenager who had seen his parents divorce could carry. I tried my best to be patient, to understand, and to give him space while still showing him I cared. But no matter what I did, there was always a wall between us. He spoke to his dad in short sentences, and to me in even fewer. I told myself that was normal, that maybe time would soften him toward me. But deep down, I worried I'd never break through. Life carried on in its own rhythm. David worked long hours as a contractor, often coming home late, worn out from the job. I managed the house, balancing my remote job and the small things that kept the family running. And Ethan, well, he disappeared into his world of headphones, video games, and an occasional basketball practice after school. He wasn't disrespectful. He was simply absent, even when sitting right there at the dinner table. Then one autumn, everything began to shift. My mother, who lived 3 states away in Ohio, fell seriously ill. I had to make several trips back and forth to care for her. Each time I returned home, the house felt heavier, as though the walls themselves carried the tension of my absence. David tried to help where he could, but with his job pulling him in every direction, I could see the strain etched into the lines on his face. And Ethan, though silent as ever, seemed to notice things more than he let on. One weekend, I came back from Ohio, utterly exhausted. My mother had been in and out of the hospital, and I'd been juggling her needs, along with trying to keep up with work emails and bills. When I unlocked the front door, the house smelled faintly of cinnamon. I walked into the kitchen and stopped in my tracks. The counters were spotless, the sink was empty, and on the table sat a small basket of folded laundry. For a moment, I thought maybe David had done it all before heading out, but then I heard movement upstairs. It was Ethan. He came down slowly, clearly unsure of how I would react. His hands were shoved in his hoodie pocket, his hair messy, but his eyes, those usually guarded teenage eyes, met mine with a strange kind of determination. I cleaned up a little. Thought you might need a break, he muttered, almost too quiet to hear. I stood there, stunned. It was the first time he had ever done something unprompted for me. My throat tightened, and I had to blink away tears before I could even respond. "Thank you, Ethan," I whispered, my voice shaking. He shrugged as though embarrassed and disappeared back upstairs without another word. That small act was the beginning of something bigger than either of us realized at the time. Over the next few weeks, Ethan began to help in small but meaningful ways. Sometimes I'd find the trash already taken out before I asked, or the dishwasher emptied in the morning. Once I walked in to see him trying clumsily, but earnestly, to cook spaghetti for dinner. Each gesture was simple, but to me, they were monumental. They weren't just chores. They were his way of reaching out. The real turning point came one evening when I completely broke down. My mother had taken a turn for the worse, and I sat in the living room with my head in my hands, trying to hold it all together. David was stuck on a late job, and for the first time I didn't bother hiding my tears. That's when Ethan appeared in the doorway, holding 2 mugs of hot chocolate. He didn't say anything at first, just placed one in front of me and sat down with the other. Silence stretched between us, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Finally, he said quietly, "I don't really know how to help, but you don't have to go through it alone." That sentence shattered whatever wall had been between us. In that moment, I didn't see him as just my stepson. I saw him as family, someone who was trying in his own way to connect, to support me. I reached out, placed my hand on his, and simply said, "Thank you, Ethan. That means more than you know." From there, Our relationship blossomed in ways I never imagined possible. We started talking more, not just about chores or responsibilities, but about his school, his dreams, even silly things like his favorite movies, or the new song he couldn't stop listening to. I realized Ethan wasn't distant because he didn't care. He was distant because he didn't know how to process the changes in his life. His parents' divorce had left scars, and my arrival had felt like another disruption. But through those small acts of help, he was finding his way toward trust. Months passed, and when my mother eventually passed away, it was Ethan who stood quietly beside me at the funeral, his presence steady and grounding. He didn't try to offer empty words. Instead, he simply stayed close, carrying my bag, making sure I ate, and being there in the small, unnoticed ways that mattered most. For a teenager, that kind of empathy was rare, and it changed the way I saw him forever. What I never expected was how his kindness toward me would ripple into his relationship with his father as well. David noticed the change immediately. The way Ethan would volunteer to help, the way he laughed more easily, the way the tension in the house seemed to lift. Slowly, our family began to feel like a family. Dinners were filled with conversations instead of silence. Weekends became times for board games or movie marathons. And for the first time since I married David, I felt like Ethan truly accepted me. Looking back now, I realize that it wasn't some grand gesture that changed everything. It was the unexpected help from my stepson, the quiet, consistent kindness that built a bridge between us. He taught me that sometimes love doesn't come in words or obvious displays, but in the small, steady ways someone shows up when you need them most.